إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Dear brothers and sisters, once again I greet you with the greetings of paradise. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, of course, many of you, you know what the topic is. The topic is what is the plan and to what is going on in India. One of the things right before I start the topic itself, it's very important that you listen to the whole topic and then you question what is actually happening. I have no problem with people questioning either my analysis or you have a type of analysis that you want to give and the way that you might understand the situation. But I'm giving you what I have been seeing, what I'm hearing from the ground, from the students there, very good childhood friends of mine and friends who I made here who are on the ground, who are observing what's happening, whether it's in Delhi or Delhi, Bihar, Hyderabad, from Aligarh University, from JNU, which is Jawaharlal Nehru University, from Jamia Millia Islamia, and also some of the Usmania University in Hyderabad, and many of these places. So we are in contact with a lot of students who are part of the work. We are hearing from them, we are calling them, we are trying to figure out what's going on, and we are getting updates of what's taking place. So from that information that we are receiving, from that information and brothers here, there is what I at least realize and others is that it seems like what is happening in India, and again, this is also from not knowing all of the information. I think the Muslims in general are looking for a direction. Many of you are from India or from the subcontinent, so you may be aware already. I'm sure you're following the news, you're following the things that are taking place from NRC to the MPR now to CAA and then CAB and then CAA, and then with yesterday, I think, or day before yesterday's Supreme Court, whatever it is that they said, which is basically that they're asking from the government that they be given another 30 days till February 22nd, basically to see what they will do as far as holding or continuing, basically give them the green light to implement CAA, which is Citizenship Amendment Act. So there is a lot going on, but it seems, what the government has said, or what the courts have said, is that the reason we are giving this extra 4 weeks is because there were 120 or so, or 160 or 120, what do you call those things? Petitions were filed. 120 or 160 petitions were filed, and the government only answered 60 or 20 of them, and there's still 100 petitions that need to be signed or discussed. So they give the government another 100 days in order to give them some type of basically, then they will give them what the court thinks. Well, in reality, what it seems to be happening is the reason for those extra 4 weeks is that, as you know, in Assam area, the bill is already, or the act is already, already a law, and so it's already being implemented. It's not that they've held back, and it's already happening, and many people are already worried, and not only worried, but especially the poor in that area are already being taken out and are being put in detention camps. And the second reason for why they have held on to this is that it seems like they're thinking that if they kind of give it time to people, another 4 weeks or so, and the protest will end, and maybe the people will just kind of stop talking about what's happening, and people will start going home. You know, especially with what's happening in Shaheen Bagh or Shaheen Bagh area, what's happening in Hyderabad area now, in Mughalpura, what's happening in Delhi, what's happening in in Bihar, Assam, all of this area throughout India. But of course, these are majority Muslim areas, and this is why you see the kind of protest that you are seeing. But brothers and sisters, the point is that we are seeing all the protests, but we are not seeing a plan. You know, this is not the first time that the Indian government has done what it has done to Muslims. I mean, there is a history from 1947, from so-called independence to 2020, right, till what is happening till now. And if you pick up the history of the Indian Army, what it has done and is doing while I speak to you in Kashmir, and what it has done in Kashmir, what happened in during Nehru time of the police brutality, or what they call police action, which in reality was military action in Hyderabad, which killed over 10,000, 10 or 100,000 I think, and 10,000 were just women who gave their lives up because they didn't want to be raped by the Indian Army. And then you have, after that, the Babri Masjid situation that took place, which was curfews for 6-7 months, and at that time I was there, and I went through the curfew situation, and I know what it feels to be in that situation, and of course in many other parts of the Muslim world. Then you have basically the court that we are waiting for, supposedly, which might give a judgment which supposedly the Muslims will like, is the same court that gave the judgment to destroy Babri Masjid. So we have to kind of keep in mind the chronology, right? We need to keep in mind what has been happening and what is going on, and what is the reason for this, and what are the underlying issues really that the government is not talking about it. And I think many of the Hindus understand it. Even the Hindus may not come and tell you that that what the BJP government is doing, especially in Assam, there are security issues that India thinks that needs to be done, and we'll discuss that also. Before I go to India, I want you guys to kind of think about what happened in Egypt. And the reason why is because, brothers and sisters, one of the things that has happened that we continue to see and we continue to observe is that if you go and ask a Muslim, just general Muslim you might find on the street, let's say they're not from India, they're just from Pakistan, forget about India, they're just from Pakistan. I'm not talking about the rest of the Muslim world or rest of you ask them, do you know what's going on? They will say, oh, what's going on? I'm just reading the news, I understand a few things here and there. Yeah. The Arab world, majority of them will not have a clue what's going on in India. And I say majority because, I have family and some of them who are Arab, and I see their families, and I see when I call them and I ask them the situation, they have no clue what's happening and why is it important, or is this even something to think about. So the first thing that I want you to understand, and the reason I will mention why I said Egypt, is that we need to keep in mind that the struggle that is taking place in India is a struggle of the whole Muslim Ummah. The struggle of the Muslims in India is the same struggle that's taking place in Syria, it's the same struggle that's taking place in Egypt, the same struggle that's taking place in Afghanistan, the same struggle that's taking place in Palestine, in Yemen, in wherever that you go, wherever part of the Muslim world that you go to, we need to keep something in mind, that this struggle that is taking place is actually the struggle of the Muslim Ummah. The whole Ummah is struggling in many different ways, and different enemies, different situation as far as maybe a different problem that caused whatever it is that's happening in those regions of the Muslim world. But if you look at the reality, at the end of the day, many of us, the reason why they're going after us is only one, and only one reason, which is La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. I mean, if you go down to the actual foundation of all of the struggles of the Muslims, Go down to the basis, go to the foundation of any struggle that's taking place in the Muslim world. You will find that whether the Muslims are fighting in Palestine against the Yahud, the Israeli state, whether it's the Muslims in Syria fighting whatever it is taking place, that the situation in Syria, they're trying to get rid of a government that has ruled them in a secular government, a dictatorship. You look at Egypt, people who came up on the streets to get rid of the dictatorship of Mubarak and then Sisi now. And now what we just saw, what was happening in Iran just a few days before the India situation. So there is a whole struggle that we as Muslims need to understand, that it is our struggle. And the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned this, that a person who wakes up in the morning, right? He wakes up in the morning, he does not care about the affairs of this ummah. He's not from us. Yo, focus. I'm going to ask you a question. A person, someone, a Muslim, wakes up in the morning and does not care about the affairs of the ummah, is not from us. Although the hadith is weak, but the ulama, they said because of the text, the matan, this discussion has happened so many places in the Quran and the Sunnah, it becomes mashhur, or the status of the hadith goes higher. Because so many ways Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned about al-muslimuna ikhwana, al-muslimu akhul muslim, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu tansurullaha yansurukum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum wa ma umiru illa liya'budullaha mukhlisina lahu ad-din hunafa. All of the many ayat talking about, oh Muslims, you need to do this, oh Muslims, you need to do this, you're one ummah, your responsibility is one, your brotherhood is one, your deen is one, your Quran is one, your Prophet is one, your Kaaba is one, your goal, your objective, your hadaf is one. So this first thing that we all as Muslims need to understand, that it is the struggle of the Muslim ummah. And if we don't look at it that way, what has happened is, well, are you from Pakistan? Yes, but what's happening in India? Oh, I don't know, man. What's going on, man? You ask a brother from some other place, doesn't know what's going on. It's like one of those things. Maybe he knows what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Egypt, what's happening in Yemen, what's happening in Iraq and Syria, but he has no clue what's happening here or in Afghanistan or in Kashmir. But you will ask people who are not Muslims, and they're more aware of the situations that are happening in the Muslim world and in the world in general, and you might be surprised they're more active than the Muslims are in whatever way they think they need to be active in. So the first thing, we have to set that foundation, that this struggle is a struggle of the Muslim ummah. And number two, no one else will be able to solve this problem other than the Muslims, because it's our problem. We are the ones facing the problem. The guns are turned towards us, the arrows are coming to us. I mean, if you look at now, going to the situation of the Muslims, and I'm comparing that, I kind of mentioned Egypt. The reason why is because you have thousands of people coming on the streets, if not more. Thousands upon thousands of people are coming, and 10,000s and hundreds of thousands. People are coming on the streets, and you have opportunist politicians, like here, you see that in this country also, right? Opportunist politicians who are telling these people, thousands who are sincere, who are saying, hey, this can't be happening. What happened to, this democracy that we talk to the whole world about and think, there is no better system than democracy and capitalism and, samvidhan bachana hai, samvidhan bachana hai. Yani we have to protect this constitution. People are putting together these huge protests even here. And they asked me to speak the other day about, and I told them, what is the objective? And the objective, again, they tell you, is that, well, we need to kind of teach the Muslims that we have to stand with the Constitution of India. Now the question comes is, is it that they think that we are, really we don't know what's happening? Are we really that, lost and confused? When you talk about NRC, or when you talk about the CAA or the CAB or whatever it is, all these bills and acts that have been passed, and I know, those bills, they will not become amendments or they will not become acts, law, until those bills actually are passed through Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, in India for instance, right? It has to actually go through a majority, which means the majority in both houses which is what? One is what, 545, the other one is 245, something like this. Both of those members in those different departments or houses of law, they were passed through majority. They were passed through majority. They were not passed. It wasn't like something just happened secretly and people just said, oh, the government did this secretly, it's a secret law, it's, one of those, it's just like, we don't know what exactly happened, man. People are just passing. No, it passed. It was done in a majority, members from both houses. So it is the constitution that allowed them to do this. It is by the Constitution of India that they are allowed to do what they are doing, and according to the democratic system. So when you come and you tell me that you need to come and tell the Muslims that they need to have some type of confidence in the Constitution of India or the democracy of India, we tell them, you sometimes find yourself lost of words. You don't know what to even say. You want us to go to the same solution that has brought us here? Or the second thing that happens is this. There you'll find people say, well, okay, let's do whatever it takes. You remove this government. They still have 4 more years. And then let's bring Congress. And through our vote. Now here's the thing that you guys, the Muslims, need to understand again. Is that on both sides, both parties are trying to win votes. Right? They're trying to score votes, score numbers. You have the Congress and you have CPI, you have the liberal left in general in India who's trying to get your vote, the Muslim vote. Because unfortunately the Muslims themselves, right now there is no clear direction. When those that are giving direction are being thrown in prisons or they're not being given the mic. They're not being given the mic. On purpose, they're not being given the mic. Because when those guys speak, the people say, I didn't think about that. So what's happening is this. So they know the Muslims, the Quran and the Sunnah, they have put aside somewhere. So you will find Muslim opportunist politicians who are right now nowhere to be found. And if they do come, they're going to come. And so what are they doing? These parties who have Congress and others are coming and trying to buy your vote and saying, oh, look, we will help you, we will serve you, we will support you, we will do this. All we have to do is get rid of this BJP government, blah, blah, blah. And the same government which was Congress, when Babri Masjid was Shaheed, it was Congress. When the quota or quota laws, those laws that were the terrorism laws that were passed, those laws that were passed under the Congress. All those laws, if you go back and see what happened when they talk about sedition laws, all of this were actually passed through Congress. It didn't happen through BJP. BJP came and they were open about it. We don't like you. Who are they trying to get? They're trying to get the Hindu vote, which is in Assam area. That's one of the reasons why they're going after Assam situation, saying that, okay, they're about whatever million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million people that are there. They want to make that into a vote bank for themselves. But the reality is, if you get the Muslims, think about this. They're going after the Hindus. They're saying that, even to the point they're willing to bring the Hindus, right? Through NRC or through whatever this bill and that bill, bring them from Bangladesh, bring them from Pakistan, bring them from, Bangladesh, whatever it is. If they're Hindu, come on, you're more than welcome. We'll give you residency here for 10 years, whatever it is that they want to give them. And if you are Muslim, you can't prove yourself, you don't have paperwork, get out of here. Why? The more Hindus enter this area, then you know what? You're going to have a bigger vote bank. And on the other side, do you really think, brothers and sisters, and do you really think that if this situation that's happening in India turns nasty, which party is going to come and stand with us? Yani, let's be realistic. Yani, Gujarat happened. The guy who did the Gujarat, the whole world knows about it. Now, massacre of 2,000 Muslims. The guy is now the head of the country. Not once, twice. Can you imagine this? A well-known human rights, suppose that, this guy, how many Muslims they killed and how they killed, how many ways they killed, and the same guy is now sitting to be the top of a second or third largest country in the world. And this is the democracy that we are talking about. This is the democracy that we are talking about. Democratically elected president or prime minister. Someone who's a murderer, known murderer, elected and put in power not once but twice, and then someone's going to come and tell me that I need to have some type of, some type of confidence in democracy or a democratic system or capitalism or whatever it is, or the Constitution of India or wherever Constitution. I mean, one of the things that I realized, even the brothers are telling me from there, they say, Akhi, one of the things that we need to realize is the lack of education, the lack of understanding that the Muslims have. If we were to just start teaching the Muslims of what is actually happening, what the army has done and what everything else is, just how the Constitution actually works and how how this system works, it would take us 2 years of just learning and teaching before we can actually get these people to understand, get their minds into seeing what is actually happening to them systematically. Systematically it's happening, right? It's a system that is making sure, step by step, humiliation, step by step, creating refugees. Now, how did this get there? Now, I mentioned Egypt in the beginning. Brothers and sisters, why is it that we don't learn from what happened to other regions of the Muslim world? When you had, let's say, Ikhwan, for instance, Ikhwan Muslimin, they came into power in Egypt, right, through democratic means, so protest happened, and at the end they also said, okay, we will accept democracy. Let's learn, let's be learners. Let's really realize and not repeat the same thing over and over and over. Let's not fall in the same hole twice. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said, right? A mu'min does not fall in the same hole twice. In Egypt, they bought, what was the brother's name? Morsi in power, right? A planned situation. A party that didn't really know how to take power. What is it that it needs to, what elements of the army that it needs to eliminate if it needs to come in power. It didn't know that, and how to do it didn't know. They came in power, and within 2 years, with the same system literally removed Morsi and killed him in jail. Killed him in jail. Same democracy. And the thing, why didn't we learn from that? Did the protest happen? I mean, let's look at the chronology, right? Let's look at the actual, how this happened. You had people come on the streets. People said, we don't like this, what's happening in the country. Okay, let's call for change. Let's do this, let's do that. People came, thousands of people on the streets calling, and then they told them this. And look, subhanAllah, they told the protesters, in Egypt, I remember, people were raising the Quran. People were raising the Quran, and I remember somebody telling them, which I don't want to mention the name of the group, literally telling the people, put that Quran in your pocket. Don't raise the Quran. Because people were saying, we want Quran, meaning we want the constitution of Allah Azza wa Jal, we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we want the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. Literally people were told, put that, no, we don't want to be, we want to call for, what they call it, the civil state. Ad-Dawla Madaniyya, like this. We want civil state, we want civil state, we want civil state. While the people, you have thousands of people with you who are there calling for the deen of Allah, you change their direction into a secular democratic direction. At the end you fail the people and you fail yourself. At the end you fail the people and you failed yourself. On whose behalf and on whose expense? Thousands of youth that were killed in jails, thousands of youth who were killed and slaughtered on the streets of Egypt and in jails of Egypt. This is what happened. What did we learn from that? Nothing. You know why? It's not my problem. That's Egypt, Masr. What am I going to do? Muslims in India had no clue. How many times we went and we were talking to, Akhi, do you know what's happening in Egypt? This is exact words. You'll find it. Maybe I said, literally, I mean, if I come down to my Hyderabad, the people will start, this will be a comedy maybe, but this is what it is. Who cares? Not my problem. Literally like this. No concern, no care, not my problem. Until now it became your problem because you ignored the rest of the problem of the world. It's not my problem, it's not my problem, it's not my problem. Then it accumulated and came to you. Rohingya happened. You will find Muslims complaining, why are the Rohingya coming here? Muslims were complaining in Bangladesh. Oh, Rohingya Muslims are coming here. Okay, why do we have to take another 1 million, 2 million? Come on, man. Why is it? Are we the refugee country of the world? This was their concern. When you have the situation you have in Kashmir, even in Kashmir situation, how many Muslims that you saw? Yes, those who were concerned, they were concerned. People were talking about Kashmir. Till now, think about this, brothers and sisters. The people that you're saying, when those people do protest, and they say, whatever the Tiranga, whatever the constitution, whatever it is, you have Muslims of Kashmir for the last 90 days without internet. We have no clue what's going on inside the country. How many people are jailed? How many people are tortured? How many people? No one has a clue. And it's the same constitution that you want to defend, those people who want us to defend it. Why is it that still, because you haven't been tortured enough like the people of Kashmir? So you still have some confidence in that? Go and ask the Muslims of Kashmir and say if they support or if they respect the constitution of India. The point that I'm trying to make you understand is that until and unless you don't feel the pain of the rest of the ummah, you're not going to look at the problems as an ummah. You're going to look at the problems isolated. As long as I can benefit from that system, don't talk nonsense. It's like what they did. There's a famous book that was written by University of Chicago. I forgot the name of it, but I'll get you guys one. It's a famous book I had to do when I was doing one of my studies. What they do is this. So this is a very famous thing. Colonial structures set this up. How to do this. So for instance, in African Americans, right? What they did is they took a look. At one point, the African Americans had no rights at all, right? No access to services, benefits, resources. No access, period. Now, the system knows that if you keep a people like this without any resources for a long time, you're going to have a rebellion. You're going to have some type of rebellion. They knew that you can't keep millions of people away from not getting any benefits from the system. Okay, but they don't want to give everybody the benefits. And at the same time, because it's an issue of the few, they're the ones who have to benefit with everything. So what did they do? They said, okay, they took a small section of the African American community and they gave them resources. All of a sudden, these guys, they have access to Harvard University and Yale University and all of a sudden, this never happened before. But all of a sudden, you're giving a small section of African American community access to these universities and some resources, right? So now what happens is this. Instead of the government going and trying to crush any rebellion or protest that happens, what do? You created a section within their own people who now say to their own people, say, hey, I'm being given benefits, I'm being given resources. Now if you go and you do this protest that you used to do yourself, now you're going to say, oh, no, you don't do that. You yourself will stop those people from doing protest because you're the beneficiary of the system. And this is the way systems work. And this is exactly what they're doing in India. And they will do in India. Is that you will create certain sectors of Muslim community, you call them secular, you call them, whatever name that you want to give them, you give them certain access, and those same people will go around, try to crush people who are standing up saying, we have no rights, we might be even homeless in a few days. So this is just to give you, to understand what is actually happening, right? What is the game plan? What are they trying to do to us? And the realities of democracy and reality of constitution and reality of whatever it is that, the whole capitalist system, how it's working. Now to continue, as I said, please keep the parallels in mind, of Egypt. Now here's the thing, with the situation with Syria. Now I saw Syria as close as anybody could see Syria, right? What was happening? Again, if you start a protest, if you start a rebellion and you don't know what it is that you're trying to start, why are you doing what you're doing? What is your, actual long-term plan? If you don't have one, then somebody literally hijacks your revolution, hijacks your goals, because you have no goal. First of all, let's say you have no goal, you have no plan, you don't know why you're doing, you just feel, you feel frustrated and oppressed, And because of that, you're out there, you're saying something needs to change, but the problem is you don't have a goal. When you don't have a goal, when you don't have an actual vision how you want to achieve this, somebody else will come and hijack. In the case of India, look what's happening. You have Muslim youth calling for communism, yes or no? Is there anyone who's following the situation there? Right? You have, maybe Manan, but you know the name Kanhaiya Kumar? Right? You know, anybody else know the name? Right? How many people, right? You should know if you're from the, especially, look at this guy. Huh? Right, ex-JNU president, the communist, whatever it is, socialist, head of the whatever. Why are they making him so big? I mean, there is a reason why this man is so well known all of a sudden, right? This is not like a thing that happened the last 6 months. It's like, in everybody who's following the situation is like, you know, they're listening to what he has to say because of the way he speaks. And then he goes to jail, comes back in 22 whatever days, and then all of a sudden made a bigger hero. But there's a game plan there, right? And the plan is that, look, fine, here is a huge Muslim sector, that community, 200 million or so, that does not like BJP. It's very clear. That's no one has to. There is no, you know, there's no two opinions about this. But you can't have the Muslims. You can't have Muslims turning again all of a sudden towards the Quran and the Sunnah and to try to figure out, oh man, what happened? Why are we even Muslims? Then start questioning, why are we Muslims? Why are they doing this to us just because we are Muslims? What is it that we don't know about ourselves that they think that we are a threat? Is there something that we have that they think, oh, if they go back to what they have, if they go back, oh man, we're going to have a situation. So what do? You plant another solution. And what they're planting is you have people who are literally on campuses and big protests. You have somebody like Kanhaiya Kumar who's speaking, and he's being followed by hundreds of thousands of Muslim youth. Actually, his close friends that you see constantly in interviews are Muslims, whether it was Umar and somebody else, these guys, Khalid, these guys are Muslims who are followed. Now, but he's Calvinist, and he's very clear about that. Lal Salam and this and that, all of this is known. But why is it that the Muslim youth are following him? Because there's a situation, and that is the ulama and the Muslims who understand, who have knowledge, they are nowhere to be found. They're nowhere to be found. We don't know where they are. They're hiding somewhere. Because they never were thought how, or the ones who do know are not being given the mic. Are not being by purpose, on purpose. There are people who are speaking, there's no question about it, but they're so, they don't want to make them into anything. Unless they talk about, oh, protecting the American, the Indian Constitution. So now this guy is coming and he's talking about the farmers, for instance, the dying and suicide. So many farmers are committing suicide, thousands of them so far, and all of this, all the different situations, talking about poverty, talking about joblessness, talking about issues that really do matter to people, that people are thinking about, and he's hitting the government saying, what you're trying to do in reality is, you don't want to talk about the real matters that are happening and people are thinking about. You want to cover your behind by doing NRC and doing CAA, CAB, but so people like that. People like that. Hey man, at least he's talking real. Oh, what is the solution? How are you going to talk about solving the problems of joblessness and all of this? Oh, here's the plan. Here's the plan. You need to follow this plan, and this is how we will create jobs, and this and this and this and this. So when you give solutions at a time when such crisis, anything looks like a solution. Anything. Somebody is giving me something rather than nothing. Hey man, at least we got somewhere to go. Let's do this. And that's what's happening now. And the second thing, so now, first, the Muslims we need to realize this is the struggle of the whole Muslim Ummah, whether it's happening in India or elsewhere. This Ummah is one, its struggle is one, its goal should be one. Number two, or number three, the role of the ulama. Brothers, wallahi, I mean, are you seeing any of the ulama on the ground? The major ulama that we have, where are they? Either the ulama that you see that are on the ground are the same ulama who are coming and saying the same words, Samvidhan bachana hai, Constitution, we have to protect. But if you go with this, now it looks good with this slogan. In Makkah Masjid after Salatul Jummah, I think you have about a couple of hundred people come together and they say they're giving bay'ah to somebody. I don't know if you saw that, right? They're standing in Masjid Makkah Masjid and standing there. They're saying that we are going to protect the Constitution of India and this and this. Arey bhai, this Constitution is brought you where you are on your knees. He's humiliated you, and then you get the people in the masajid, come to the masajid in hundreds of whatever, and then you ask them to give a khasam upon this constitution. So now what happens after, let's say now, when you have these superficial solutions, now let's say 4 years pass, Allah knows what will happen in the next 4 years. Allah knows what will happen in the next 4 weeks after this, whatever the constitution or the courts pass. Then after that you have a situation, let's say whatever, BJP is removed, then Congress comes. And then what happens? After Congress, then BJP comes back. Then you go back on the streets. So what? A vicious cycle, it's a cycle. Keep the Muslims in this cycle. Keep the whole humanity in this cycle. No solutions, no actual answers to any situation. Why is this even happening? Why is this happening? Why is it that we look at the problems of humanity this way? Where are the solutions? Is this a solution? Keep humanity in a limbo? In a circle, continuous circle? Is that a solution? Who's supposed to give the solution? The ones who are supposed to give the solution, the ulama, as I said, what have they done to the ulama? The ulama are busy. What are they doing busy in? What are they busy in? Okay, let's, nikah, shadi karana hai, bula lo. Shadi kara ke, shadi ho gayi, biryani kha ke niklo aap. This is literally the alim, yani what alim is supposed to do. Mar gaye kisi ko leke aa jao. Somebody died, bring him here. Kafan dafan kara do, chalo bhai, rasta napo. What else do we have? Tell me, what else do the alim, ulama, what else do we do? Not all, but when you talk about the role of the ulama, we have accepted this as the role of ulama. The secularist, supposed secular Muslim, I don't know what that even means, right? They're supposed to now tell the ulama what to do, give direction. And that's exactly what's happening in India. You have secular who are giving direction to the ulama, who are supposed to know إِلَى الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ, who are supposed to know وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ. Arey yaar, it's gotten to this point where, like I said, in Egypt, when people raised the Quran, people were told, put it in your pocket. We don't want, make it look like this is about Muslims. What do you mean this is not about Muslims? Who are these people standing there? And now in the protest, people are being told, don't say Allahu Akbar. Yes or no? Don't say Allahu Akbar. Don't say La ilaha illallah. This is communal. This becomes communal. Arey bhai, they are getting rid of you. They are coming after you because you are Muslim, because you say La ilaha illallah. If you accept that in the protest, like if you actually accept the idea not to say La ilaha illallah and not to say Allahu Akbar, literally they are winning. This is exactly the point. This is exactly the game, to get you to become secular, democratic, kafir. Don't say Allahu Akbar, don't say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, don't say none of that. Say Jai Shri Ram, say Vande Mataram, say Hindu, kya to hai, wo Hindustan Zindabad, and whatever it is. This is, your slogans should be this. Don't say Allahu Akbar, don't say La ilaha illallah. When the guy, Thamur guy, whatever his name is, when he came to Jawaharlal Nehru University, when he came and he was giving a talk, when you had some youth who held the protest, they had a banner saying La ilaha illallah, Tera mera rishta kya, La ilaha illallah, all of this. They took it from their hands and they ripped him apart and they threw him in the garbage. Like, no, this is unbelievable. You cannot bring this. Well, so what is the issue is, the whole point is the attack on the Muslim identity. And for us to accept it, which means they got us where they want us. They got us where they want us. And these are realizations that we have to have and think about and understand. And then once you see all of the problems and the issues and what exactly the game plan is, then you come up with a plan. When you talk about RSS, and this is one of the things that I wanted to, when you talk about RSS, right, 100 years of work, 100 years, 1924 or 25, when these people started doing their work, It took them 100 years, but they had a very clear objective, what they wanted to achieve. They were banned in the country once, twice, 3 different times. They were told not to do this, you cannot join politics, you cannot do this, none of that. For whatever years they did, they had a clear plan, and they knew exactly what they wanted to achieve. Doesn't matter how long it takes, and no one is going to swear us or turn us to this or that direction. They had a clear direction, exactly what they wanted to do. Whatever time, 3 different leaderships passed away, and finally they got into power. Finally they got, the Muslims now, whatever it is happening on the ground is happening on the ground. But what does the future look like? Next 100 years for the Muslims in this land, or whether it's Hind, all of this Muslim land in this area, what is our plan? And we need to start thinking this way, especially the youth, right? We have to start looking and saying, okay, what has happened? Why is it that my father is so worried? His mother is over there. I don't know what will happen. My sister is over there. I don't know what will happen. How long do we, what do we need to do? What will happen to this ummah? Are we going to accept living in, whatever it is, the detention camps? What is happening in Rohingya? Is this going to happen with us? Why? Because we neglected what happened to Rohingya. Neglected. People cried, oh yeah, what do we do? But who did anything about it? Did the Muslims in India stand up, said somebody do something about what's happening? Nothing. So why? Because no vision, no plan, no understanding, no movement. And this is what needs to come down to. Brothers and sisters, wallahi, it is time that the Muslims have a movement. It is high time that Muslims think, and with a long, a vision, a clear vision needs to be set for the Muslims of the area and the Muslims of the world in general, is that when governments, largest democracies in the world, can come and tell 200 million population people and just be able to remove them from the face of the earth, kill them, put them in detention camps, 2 million people from Rohingya, 1 million whatever people from Kashmir, how many millions in Syria and Iraq, there has to be a plan. It has to say this cannot continue, and the ummah needs to say, hey, now hold on and let's have a plan. And number one thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَتَعْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. You must have a group. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ, from amongst you, there has to be a group that calls to what is khair, enjoins what is good, and forbids what is evil. There must be a group amongst you, all Muslims. Why? Because your job, this Quran, why did we, before I go to this movement issue, there is da'wah in India, right? The da'wah, you have Dalit, a whole Dalit population of Dalit, right? In the millions, who is frustrated, who has barely any rights. The lowest, the caste from the Hindus. They don't even touch them. It's like a whole untouchable thing. You can't touch another human being. Imagine the level of humiliation a human being has to go through. Imagine if the Muslims, when you have a plan, and part of the plan has to be that we give them directly da'wah. And not just da'wah that, what we do here, everybody's in the same boat, come on, everybody. We're not talking about playing, we're not on dance club here. We're talking about serious game plan that we say to them, look at what Allah has to offer to you, your creator who created you. Do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you to be called this low life caste, in a caste system put together by human beings, racist, fascist, whatever it is that you want to call? Is this why Allah created you for? Did you ever think about why Allah Azza wa Jal has made you? Why is it that the Muslims have forgotten the purpose of why we exist? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرَجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. You are the best ummah ever to be raised for mankind. Why? Because you enjoin what is good and you forbid what is evil. We are accepting evil and we are becoming part of evil. Where is khair and where is calling for khair? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةٌ وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. You will be bearing witnesses. Forget about just this dunya. On the day of judgment, you will be taken accountable because you are witnesses for mankind on the day of judgment. That's why that you enjoy what is good and you forbid what is evil. Imagine if in our plan is the part of the plan is that we call the people of that land to Islam. Doesn't matter what the consequences will be. We call them to Islam. I know what the consequences are, right? I know when many of the Hindus, when they become Muslim, what happens? Parents remove them from their properties and this and that and all kinds of oppression and things that happen. We understand all of that. But this is part of why we live in this world. Allah Azza wa Jalla created us to obey Him, to worship Him. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla created us for this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create us to accept tawaghit and kufr and fasad. So the Muslim Ummah itself has forgotten its own identity and its own reason for its own existence. So whatever is thrown to us like dogs, we take it. Bones, here, take this one, take this one, take this one. No plan, no nothing. Iraq here, Iran here, Syria here, Afghanistan here, Kashmir here. So there has to be a movement. You know, it's funny, when we talk about Khilafah, for instance, right? People say, oh, yaar, 53 se aap baat kar rahe hain ye cheez ki. You're talking about since 53, you know, Taqiyuddin Ibhani spoke about it, Israr Ahmad spoke about it, all the ulama came and they spoke about it. Where is this Islamic system? Where is the Khilafah? You know, I tell them, it's amazing how much patience the kuffar have to achieve what they want to achieve, right? They can work for 100 years with empty stomachs, to take power. They work with a clear objective for 100 years until they achieve what they wanted to achieve according to what they believe. When you talk to the Muslims want a solution the next day after sleeping for 100 years. When you come and you give a solution, yaar, Allah gave this solution to us. It's not your job, it's not my solution, it's not coming from my heart, it's not coming even from the Prophet ﷺ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet ﷺ, this is your solution. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. The Prophet ﷺ does not speak out of his desire. Whatever he says is from Allah Azza wa Jal. This is a solution from the creator of mankind. Here it is. But that solution with its economic system, why are we not presenting? Because in reality we know whether it's India or the rest of the world is suffering due to the economic systems that we are facing, the crises that are coming. Everyone is making Muslims the excuse for the coming crisis. Whether it's recession in this country that's coming, whether it's whatever it is that we are seeing in the Muslim world right now or in India. We are made into a scapegoat. I mean, look at Trump. Just the other day, because he's also lined up for elections, he says we're going to extend the ban on the Muslims. Just mention Muslims so he can get that extra whatever. Somebody, oh good, he's still. Just mention Muslims, he gets what he needs. Yani, what I want you to see is your value. Look at your value as a Muslim, how much you are valued. Do we even do the work amongst the ummah, amongst the Muslims to show them how much valuable you are, that the world's politicians gain power by mentioning just your name. As long as I'm anti-Muslim, anti-such and such, I can gain power and stay in power. So there has to be something. Now where are we in this game? Number one, as I said, go back. We need to go back to the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. Brothers and sisters, wallahi, pick up the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, Ar-Rahiq al-Makhtum, or Ibn Kathir's, or At-Tabari, or many others, whoever that you pick up that book. If you actually look at what's happening in India and Mecca is so similar, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how similar India is and the Mecca situation. In Mecca, you're dealing directly with the polytheists, directly with the mushrikeen, directly with the kuffar, right? You're dealing with those people who day and night worship, idols. And the Prophet ﷺ is going directly, he's talking head to head to them, he's giving them da'wah, calling them to tawheed, calling them to Allah Azza wa Jal, calling them to a system that they themselves were shocked to hear. They were shocked to hear that, you're supposed to, you're not supposed to kill women, and when you have a baby born, you're not supposed to kill them. Oh, this is what Muhammad ﷺ says. Oh, you're not supposed to cheat in your ways, when you in your scales. Oh, that's what Muhammad ﷺ says. Oh, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. The system, you're not supposed to, cheat the poor just because they are poor. You're not supposed to take away the rights of such and such and such and such. What Islam is saying? Islam comes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشرك. Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying, we send you with the deen of haqq. Even though the kuffar, the mushrikeen may hate it, they detest it, but here is a solution to what they are looking for. Yes, it was a resistance. Yes, Sahaba paid with their blood. Look, brothers and sisters, to tell you the truth, the Muslims in India are already playing with their blood. Yes or no? They're already paying with their blood. How many youth were beaten to death? Beaten to death in jails. Some of them were given, I saw one of the brothers came, he said, I came from Bihar jails. He said, man, there is no internet there, so we can't even hear. They said, after they beat him, they put alcohol in their mouths. It's happening. This is what was doing. Some of them beaten to death. Police has been given free hand. Anybody says, hey, you can't do this Delhi police, you can't do this Hyderabad police, you can't do this Bihar police, you can't do this Uttar Pradesh police, whatever it is, Sarishan ke jail mein dalo, Sarishan ke case mein jail mein dalo usko, FIR dalo uske upar. Yes or no? Just say something. Just say something. Oh, khalas, put a FIR on him because guy today from Aligarh University, I forgot Hassan something, brother Hassan something, I forgot his name. They put a FIR case on him this morning or yesterday. Why? Just because he comes and says that, look, he's telling the government that, look, you are testing the patience of the people, because if the people start going crazy, till now they're still following the law, and if they go crazy, this country will go upside down. What are you doing? And the moment he said that, they said, oh, he's trying to create communal violence, boom, FIR on him. You can't even say, where is democracy? No freedom of speech. Oh, when you say La ilaha illallah, when you say Allahu Akbar, communal slogans, you can't say that. Where is democracy? You can't come out of the masajid. Acha, protest. We're not going to give you permits to protest. Last night, even in Hyderabad, they were asking for protest for Salatul Jummah. Again, they told them no permits were given. No permits, no permits. Why? Where is your democracy? And now, if that's the case, this is what the Muslims need to realize. There is no such thing. There is no such thing. What it is for those people who are elite and those who are in ruling power. It's only for them and for themselves. The rest of the people, you suffer the way we want you to suffer. Even the Hindus are suffering. The only thing that the Hindus got going for them right now is that, okay, if you are Muslim, you're gone. You can't prove your paperwork, you can't prove this and that, you're gone, right? Well, let's say a Hindu, they say a Dalit or whatever it is, some guy who has no money, he cannot prove what he has. So then he goes out and then he comes back in because he's Hindu. For him, it's no problem. Because NRC allows that. So dear brothers and sisters, it is high time that the Muslim Ummah goes back, number one, to its aqidah, its foundation. It needs to go back to its foundation and needs to look at, say, why are we in this situation? And what is the aqidah of Islam? This La ilaha illallah that we believe in, what kind of solution does La ilaha illallah provide to us? We need to have, this is what we need to go back and become Muslims. Meaning that we look at Quran and Sunnah as our solutions. We look at Quran and Sunnah as our sources of law. We look at Quran and Sunnah as our guidance. And know clearly that any other guidance that will come from any other source will take us to where we are today. Humiliation after humiliation. So number one, understand your deen. Understand what it is that Allah Azza wa Jalla sent us for. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us to rule the world. To provide solutions to this dunya. To provide solutions, right? Provide solutions. What is the solution for what is taking place today everywhere in the world? We need to do that, and we need to teach that to our children, that hey, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you believe in provides you these solutions. Number one. And number two, okay, so now I believe Allah Azza wa Jal. I believe Allah is the only one that gives me solutions. I believe Allah Azza wa Jal is the only one that can solve our problems, not only the problems of Muslims, but the whole world as well. Okay, how do we bring this into existence? You cannot do this alone. And that requires that there is a movement with clear understanding. A clear understanding. Calling for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Step by step. Doesn't matter what the consequences will be. Sumayya radiallahu anhu was killed. Right? But Ali Yasir was killed just for saying La ilaha illallah. They did not pick up a weapon. They did not, none of that happened. Just for speaking, convincing the people they were killed. And this is our job right now, is to convince the people not of democracy and the kufr of all these man-made laws that can be changed anytime they want, at will, at any interest, depending on what interest is talking. Rather, a solution that will be a solution that is a foundation for humanity, that actually fits their nature, fits their fitrah. And this has to happen. And that, number one, will create a movement within the Muslims and unite the Muslims, will give Muslims an idea what they are even protesting for. Because to protest for the sake of protest and then to stay in that circle, you're going nowhere. This is a must, brothers and sisters. This is a must, that we must build a movement. We must connect with the struggles of the rest of the Muslim world. You have movements, whether it's Hizb ut-Tahrir, whether it's whatever it is that you have studied. Go and do the work and don't ignore things just because, whatever it is. Read their books. And if you don't like them, take the books and throw it on their face and say, what kind of solution you provide? This is not a solution. No problem. At least what's happening is there's learning and teaching taking place. There is actually, what you call the bedari aa rahi hai Musalmanon mein ki bhai, kuch karna hai. ऐसा तो काम नहीं होगा यार. So this is when I was talking about that there needs to be. And finally, just to end this, look, brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Which human being today is not looking for rahmah? Which human being today that is not looking for mercy? They want mercy. People are crying, saying, Bhai, what the heck do you want us to do? People, everyone, in one way or the other, crying. And one thing to the ulama, I just want to give you this to the ulama before I finish. Brothers and sisters, we have to push our ulama to be ulama. We have to remind them why it is that they learned the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them this knowledge in order to guide others and be guidance, for a source of guidance for others. They were not just there to be some, whatever it is. Right? I mean, if you look at the role of Shah Waliullah al-Dahlawi, if you look at the role of, Taqiyuddin Nibhani, or if you look at Hassan al-Banna, if you look at, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, if you look at Abu Bakr al-Tartushi, if you look at any of these ulama, right? Shah Abdul Aziz al-Dahlawi and Sayyid Ahmad Shaheed and his three brothers and Shaukat Ali Jawhar and Muhammad Ali Jawhar. This is our history. These were the people who understood what needed to be done. People say, oh, so and so said, Muhammad Ali Jawhar and Shaukat Ali Jawhar, these were the people who had already warned that if India splits, what will happen to the Muslims of India. They had already given the, let's say, that in some way a tidings that this is what's going to happen to you. It was Shah Waliullah al-Dahlawi, right, who understood the situation of the Muslims in India. Then he calls, Muhammad Abdali, right? And after that, it was Abdul Aziz al-Dahlawi, the one who gave the fatwa in 1803 in order to declare India Darul Harb at that time because of the entrance of British and the control of the British and all the institutions of India. He said the Muslims have no control anymore. India has become Darul Harb. And he gave a fatwa, and after that fatwa, the struggle that started in 1803, which culminated all the way up to 1857, the so-called mutiny, which is actually rebellion that took place from all over the Muslim world, and the whole India was rebelling, all the way from Afghanistan to this area. A rebellion takes place, 40 or so thousand ulama are killed, 40,000 ulama killed. And after that, the British decide that this is not going to end. They go after the backbone of this ummah, which is again the ulama, and they leave some of them, which finally they built Deoband. And even when they did build Deoband, that Deoband came after the British again. So we have a history in that land. We have a history. It's not something that you can sit there and say, oh, what do we have to follow? What do we have to really look up to? No, we have a whole history of hundreds of years. And movements came out of that area. Ulama came out and built movements from that area. Go back and look at them. And subhanAllah, every time the Muslims united in that area, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them victory. They keep something in mind even at that time. Even now, just forget that time. Right now, the protests that they are worried that they're worried that if these protests turn into a different situation, the government is worried what will happen. So they're trying to give time to, maybe this will, just go away, this will just go away, this will go away. But the Muslims, without a plan, coming out and doing this is creating this type of a situation for the government. Imagine you come with a plan, a clear objective, what will happen to the government? 200 million is not a small number, but it takes work and it takes time. And it takes youth like you and me, not to sit around and work, think about a circus or some video game somewhere. If that's the thinking that you have, you cannot take leadership. And I'll end it with this story that was mentioned. It's a story, Tariq Ibn Sa'd, I think it is, Tariq of the Muslims in the area of Spain. And he just gives the youth, he says that when the Spanish, or when those people, the Nasara, the Christians who were trying to come into the borders of the Muslims, they wanted to see how the Muslims are. Can they actually attack and take over certain villages, or can they start an attack on the Muslims? And what they did is they sent a priest. And this priest goes in, and he just comes into the Muslim borders, and he walks around, he's looking at what the Muslims are doing and this and that, and he finds this Muslim youth, young, 12, 13 years old, he's shooting, and when he shoots at a target and he misses his target, he starts crying. So the guy tells him, why are you crying, man? Pick up the arrow and hit it again. So the guy says, my issue was not that I missed it here, but what will happen to me if we were in a war and fighting, and then I miss my target, what will I say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What will I say to Allah Azza wa Jal? The guy says, this is a 12-year-old talking? And imagine what a soldier or mujahid of the Muslim army is talking, if this is a 12-year-old, 13-year-old talking. The guy goes back and he says, there is no way to attack. Even if you were thinking in your dreams, stop it. These people are crazy. This is a 12-year-old talking like this. It took them less than 100 years of work. After 100 years of work, they said a same situation took place, and they came to see, just to judge the Muslim youth, and they found that the Muslim youth, these people are crying. Why are they crying? He says the reason why is because his mother says, I will not allow you to have a she-slave until you memorize Quran. But he wants the she-slave. So until then he's crying about it. This is what the mother is doing, right? The mother is saying, oh, don't cry, la, 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 la. Why? Because I'll give you the she-slave that you're looking for, but you memorize the Quran. So they said, if this is the concern of their youth, attack now. Because these youth, they're not going to come in the battlefields. Till now, I was listening to one of the brothers who's in the protest. He's saying, Bhai, gharon mein se to niklo. Come out of your homes at the least, for now, at least now, when it's come to your lives and your families. So, a movement takes place with a fikr. There has to be a thought process, why it is that you're going to do what you're going to do. And that fikr is there in Islam. And that is the fikr that we need to teach each other and learn each other. Put together halaqat and understanding masajid with the situation of this ummah, brothers. Wallahi, with the situation of this ummah, the masajid should be filled with halaqat in every corner. People sitting and trying to learn from each other. How do we solve our problems? Rather than that, 90% of the masajid are empty. Empty, they come for Salatul Jum'ah or whatever it is. Because they're also sick, people are sick. They never talk about something that actually matters. What do we talk about? Oh, wudu or salah or whatever it is, that this thing has to be this big or this thing has to be this big. This is the concern. And if this is the concern, why should the youth come to you? They rather become communist and ex-Muslims. In this country, you have ex-Muslim phenomenon. In India, you have communist phenomenon. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us guidance, to guide us. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداء الدين يا رب العالمين. And just one more thing, brothers, those countries around who are watching what's happening in India, like the way they watched what happened to Rohingya, the way they watched what happened to Syria, the way they watched for the last whatever years in Palestine, what happened in Afghanistan and whatever, brothers, believe me, it's coming to them. Rather than them, imagine if you actually had sincere leadership of the Muslims. India is surrounded by Muslim countries. You have Afghanistan, you have Pakistan, you have Bangladesh, you have, imagine if there was an actual leadership who was thinking about what to do and how to unite the Muslim Ummah. India today, it's one of its weakest points. You have Sikh who want to build a Khalistan. You have Naxalites in the south who want a whole communist region. You have Kerala, who knows it might actually separate in the next 50 years, I don't know. But the way it looks like, you have Assam situation in the north where you don't know what's going to happen. The Chinese are willing to support even a resistance if that starts. Remember that area there was a resistance there in 1970s, which was supported by China. I mean, you're talking about a country that is in reality very weak. But because no vision and no political will and no leadership of the Muslims around, this is our situation today.